Have you ever looked at some of the stars or celebrities and wonder how successful they are? Thinking of the eminent personalities such as Narendra Modi, Ambani, Barack Obama, Steve Jobs, or anyone you can think of as successful. Do you ever wonder which process they follow to reach at that state? Well, I'm going to answer this question for you. If you give your next 15 minutes, I can show you the process of this typical question. Before moving forward, I want you all to imagine yin and yang. Those who don't know about it, it is a Chinese philosophical structure that describes the opposite but the interconnected forces. It has two parts in the equal proportion. One is the black color and the other is the white color. Well, these two colors are quite extreme. I want you to imagine the black and white color of the structure. Don't you think these two colors represent something? Well, you are thinking right. They are representing the positives and negative or the success and failure. But the question arises, does the world live only in the spectrum of black and white, or more specifically, only on the label of the success and failure? Well, the answer is no, they don't. In fact, the words live at the spectrum of both the colors. For your understanding, I am designating black as failure and white as success. If I keep adding the white color in the black color, it will tend to become gray. And upon further adding the same color, it will tend to become white. Let me explain the whole concept to you by my real life example. But before that, let me share my background with you. I was brought up in an average middle class family, having my mother, my father, younger sister, my grandmother, I call her Ammaji, and my aunt, the Buaji. My mother was a teacher, so a lot of the people used to come at my house, and my father is a government employee. So, this is about my family background, and I was brought up in these scenarios. Talking about myself, from the childhood, I was an hardworking student, and I try as much as I can. In the class ninth, I applied for the Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalayas. Those who don't know about Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalayas, they are very good government schools, and it is being considered that being in Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalayas is very difficult. So after studying specifically for Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalayas, I passed the test and got the chance to be at that school. At that point of time, I get two options. Well, the scenarios become like that. I had been offered two options. The first being get admitted into Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalayas, and the second one being be at the same school which I was studying before 9 and in 11 go to Kota. Well, Kota is a hub for the JEE preparation, and the students from all over the country come to study there. My parents motivated me to study there. So I needed to choose between the Kota and Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalayas. This decision is perhaps the most difficult and challenging decision up to now for my life. As if I choose the Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalayas, I need to be in that school for the next 4 years, 9, 10th, 11th, and 12th. If and my journey would be different, right? If I be at the same school and join the Kota later, it will have different life. Anyways, I choose to go to Kota in class ninth and continue to study in the same school in class ninth and 10th and drop the Jawan over the Vidyalayas. This choice changed my life and gave me a lot of exposure. So, as planned, I completed my ninth and 10th from the same school, but got a quite moderate number of 9.4 out of 10 CGPA. At that point of time, CBSE ranks according to the basis of the CGPA. Well, the number which I get in the class 10th was acceptable, but not according to my expectations. Anyways, I went to Kota and joined one coaching institute. I shared my room with one of my friend. Together, we decided that we will crack the IITs with the flying color. The young hot blood. But the life has some different plans. First, the institute which I choose used to focus on the JEE advanced only. It doesn't focus neither on the JEE mains nor on the boards. Generally, the ideal case for the student should be that he or she should focus on the boards, then on the JEE mains, and then on JEE advanced. But for me, it was reverse. What I began to do is that I try to understand the concepts in the class, and then study the material given by the coaching institute. That material is specifically targeted JEE Advanced. So the overall conditions become like this for me. I am understanding one concept in class and then directly use the study material given by the coaching. I tried attempting a question and found out that it is not of my level because it is quite tough. I didn't focus on easy questions and this costed me a lot. I began to think that this overall concept doesn't belong to me or I'm not able to understand it. Soon, this is done not just for one concept but for the whole chapter, then to the second chapter, then to the third chapter, and this goes on and on and on. So I begin to do like this. I try to understand the concept and then answer the question, which in most cases I was not. Then uh, I try answer the questions of the given. Uh, Soon I begin to get less marks in the examination. You know, it hits very hard when the person who sits right next to you and you consider him a very good friend gets more marks than you and you feel guilty. You know how much marks I used to get? 30 to 40 out of 400. Soon, a lot of pressure began to come to me. Pressure from my parents, pressure from my friends, low number pressure, and the pressure of not able to perform. Believe me, the last one is the worst. I begin to feel that I am worthless. I am not capable to do anything in the life and I am not able to cope up with my parents' expectations. Oof, a lot of negative thoughts. The pressure which I get now, the same was felt with my roommate also. But he was not able to handle them. I clearly remembered it was near the Diwali of class 12th when my roommate's parents came and take him home as he was not able to handle it. After a lot of the medication and taking care for 1 year, he got healed and then gave the 12th after 1 year. Seeing one of your best friend in such a hard condition, it was very difficult for me. I literally cried out on my mother's laps because of the pressure which I was feeling. I remembered it clearly. Then I decided to start from the scratch and focus on the basics. It was just 2 months before the boards that I decided that I will first focus on boards and then went up step by step. Reading, learning, and brainstorming all became the part of my life. I started to work hard in the right direction and finally I gave my boards. Uh, Finally, I get a digit. I will not reveal it as many people will start to judge it and begin to think, begin to question the process. Just give you a hint, it was greater than zero. I was happy in the last that I cope up with this hard time. No matter what others says, I was feeling happy. I was feeling relaxed and most importantly satisfied. Believe me, this satisfaction is very hard to get and is very unique. Now, many of you may be thinking, what actually is the process and why he told us this story. This question sounds interesting to me. What about you? Sounds interesting, right? Remember, I talked about yin and yang. I told you that adding more and more white color in the black color will lead it to the gray and then eventually to the white. The same applies to the real life also. There is no one who is 100% successful. Everyone lies on the spectrum of black and white. This is the absolute reality. No one can lie in the extreme right, extreme white, or in the extreme black. Think of any great person, and he or she will lie in this spectrum only. To reach here, we need to follow the 5 steps. The first one being curiosity or the requirement. To enter into this loop of the hard work now, the very first step is the motive. Why you want to enter this group? Generally, you enter into this loop either by the curiosity or it is the requirement. Doesn't matter. The fact is that you entered into this loop. Let me connect it to you with my story. I entered this loop because it was my requirement. Next, the inspiration. Everyone, Everyone means everyone needs the inspiration to do a certain task. You remember when I cried in my mother's laps? That was my inspiration. Step number three, understanding and planning. Understanding the task with utmost clarity and plan accordingly is the understanding and planning. For me, strategize and categorize all the syllabus so that I can get the maximum results in just 2 months comes under this category. Next, we have the execution. Implementing the plans which we have make it out or the plan for ourselves is known as the execution. Remember, I told you that I did the brainstorming and learning and practice continuously. This whole comes under the execution. Once you are done with the execution and get a result, which is eventually the next step, your mind compares it with the expectations or the target that you have set for yourself. Your mind is the best friend for you. Remember, I told you about my friend? That incident made me believe about the power of mind. I have seen the persons who get 90% but still are not satisfied. And I've also seen the persons who get 50% and they consider it as a success for them. That is why deciding is the most important step. Here, your mind decides whether you achieve the goal, partially achieve the goal, or you get the failure. Take an example. Uh, Students run a marathon and he had a target that he needs to run 100 meter in, let's suppose, 1 minute. Initially, he took 5 minutes to run that 100 meter, but after proper training, he became confident that he can win that race. However, on the D day, he completed the task in 1 minute and 10 seconds, but there by lagging by 10 seconds, right? Now, he can consider it as a success and celebrate, or he can consider that he tried hard and he's in Pasha zone. If you consider yourself in the Pasha zone, na, you must have the power to command the mind that you are satisfied. The child here should celebrate here that at least he tried. Many people don't even try. You remember, I got my results. I lied in this partial zone only. And finally comes the last that if you consider that you have failed the task, there is a piece of advice from me. Do not get worried or depressed. I repeat, do not get worried or depressed. Just evaluate your problems, how and where you lagged, and how you cannot repeat the same mistake again. Go again in the loop with the same spirit, same passion, and the same enthusiasm. And exit this loop with the flying colors. You know, getting out of this loop will make you strong at the end of the day. Learn daily and continuously add the positives in the life. Well, by going through this loop again and again, will eventually make you a successful person in the life. In the last, by not taking much time, I want you to state the quotes of the Golmaal 3 movie. It is the live each day as it is your last day and live every moment that it is the last. In Hindi we say अपना हर दिन ऐसे जियो जैसे कि आखिरी हो जियो तो हर पल ऐसे जियो जैसे कि आखिरी हो. Once again, thank you very much. This is Harsh Agarwal signing off.